Okay. Oh, yeah. I'm going to have fun this episode. Oh, yeah. I'm enjoying it already. And we have another invader in the Mancave podcast.
She's been here already. doing what she do.
I don't know how I invaded if I was invited.
Well,
you were invited to witness the happening of the episode, and you said, "Fuck it, I'm gonna jump on in."
I asked. I asked permission.
Who the ones that you stole the mic for? He was afraid of you.
Yeah,
that shit don't matter.
That's dead ass.
That says more about your friend than it does about me.
Was it like coercion? What do you call it? Like, you're the expert.
No,
here.
I don't know what you're trying to call it.
Okay.
All right, just thinking. Welcome everybody back to the Man Cave podcast. Mm-hmm. As you can see, we have another woman on because that's what we want to do, right? We want to bring more women on.
Empowerment.
Yes, a black woman at that. Black History Month. Larry's my blacker half, you know.
Well, we don't know. Are you black? We got to ask these questions because.
Oh yeah, how do you
identify?
Yeah.
Okay. In terms of my identity, I identify as a black woman.
Okay, perfect.
That is me.
She, her.
Perfect.
She, her.
Perfect.
She, her pronouns, cisgender. Yeah.
Perfect.
It's me.
I got to get educated on these things because I feel like it's going to bite me in the ass one day, for real. That ass.
I was reading those questions y'all wrote. I'm like,
What questions did we ask? That was a little... I don't think we asked anything.
Well,
I guess we'll get there.
I think her brain is like, okay, I see where you're going with this. You're trying to lead me into like this rabbit hole. And then nah.
See, not everything is a trap. You know, men are not always trying to trap. We just trying to have a conversation. I'm honestly just trying to learn.
Are you?
You can ask Larry, you can ask Abby. I asked you to come on because I wanted to have a conversation with you about like your career and everything because I think that fascinated me. I don't know a lot of lawyers, least of all a female lawyer. So that's what I wanted to get into. So if you want to go ahead and give us your background, a little bit about yourself, go ahead.
Sure. So, hello, everybody. I am a lawyer here in Philadelphia.
It's in Philly? No, I'm joking.
I'm a lawyer in Philadelphia. I work in a private firm. I do like business litigation. So when businesses sue other businesses, trying to work out their disputes and some like corporate bankruptcy stuff. So that's me. That's what I do. I went to an HBCU for undergrad.
Which one?
Shout out to the Lincoln University of Pennsylvania. Yes, we are the first degree granting HBCU in this nation. So that's us.
If I had $1 every time I heard that shit, bro, oh my God.
I'm so sorry.
I would be wealthy. Y'all are, I guess, proud to be Lincoln.
Wouldn't you?
I don't know. My experience at Lincoln wasn't all that great. I went for a French Montana concert, and bro, when I tell you I have never seen no more ratchet shit. Like I went to the bathroom, and it was chicken bones everywhere.
Was it homecoming?
It might have been
Spring fling?
Might have been.
It gets a little different around.
Oh, okay.
But I promise you, if you showed up on Monday morning, campus would have been spotless. We cleaned it up real quick. Don't worry about it.
Chicken bones is crazy.
So what did you get from Lincoln? Bachelor's, master's?
So I have a bachelor's from Lincoln in French language and literature. And then I went straight through. So I'm what people call a K through JD. Started in kindergarten and never stopped going to school until I graduated from law school. Went to Villanova's Charles Switzer School of Law. That's what they call it now. You know, it's the brand, so you gotta say the whole thing.
Listen, wear like a badge of honor, because I'm sure that shit wasn't easy.
No, not at all. That 3 years, really, it's funny because I was telling someone the other day, it's like, you don't necessarily have to love the law. You have to understand why you're there. And once you've determined what your purpose is, it makes getting through that 3 years worth it because you've already predetermined, like, whatever I have to do to get to point B, it's worth these 3 years. So it's a rough ride, but you make it through. Took the bar exam, so got licensed in 2020. I've been practicing ever since.
And why did you decide to go the route that you went for, like, that specific, like, lawyer? You said it was for, like, business and...
Yeah, so the way it started for me, I have an older brother who's a lawyer, and he started out doing, like, criminal defense work. He's always been in the practice, and he's always been in the courtroom and kind of the wheeler dealer. When it came time to decide what I wanted to do with my life, I looked at someone else that I knew who had a terminal degree because no one else in my family even had an education to start with. So that was the first step. And I was like, okay, well, if he's a lawyer, I can probably do that too. And then when I graduated, I was like, well, the thing I'm good at is talking to people. The thing I'm good at is standing up in front of people, speaking extemporaneously or just off the top of your head, right? So extemporaneous just means it's not rehearsed. You didn't practice it. Oh, my
God. Okay.
I'm saying it for the benefit of your listeners. It's not for you, Larry.
We have a highly educated audience, if you didn't know. All of our viewers have PhDs.
Considering the host didn't know what the word meant, I thought that might have been a good idea.
Oh, good. It's all good. It's all good. Learn something new every day. I can't be perfect.
I still don't know how to pronounce it.
Don't even worry about it.
I'm not concerned.
Nobody's using this shit.
Okay, well, because that's what I'm good at. I thought being in the courtroom, I thought litigating, I thought handling real cases and knowing, you have to know the client, you have to understand the client's issues, and you have to be able to anticipate what the next issue could be. So that's how I got into litigation, and that's how I ended up in bankruptcy litigation, because it's just, doing all the work that leads up to the trial.
What was the process from graduating, getting your, doing that, and then finding a job within that field? Was it easy? Was it something that just came out? Because I know a lot of people talk about going to college and getting their degree and not being able to get a job for their degree.
Yeah, so the reason I was able to study French in undergrad was because I knew I was going to law school. And I was able to do it comfortably was because I knew I was going to law school. And it doesn't really matter what you study before you go to law school to get into law school. It may matter like going forward if you know that you want to, work with businesses, you want to be in-house at a big company, you might want an accounting background or something like that. But if you're just like, I just want to be a lawyer and I just want to get my law degree, then you can just kind of study what makes you happy, study what brings you joy, study what will give you the highest GPA. I knew French would do that for me.
Are you fucking kidding me?
I graduated undergrad with a 3.9 GPA because I was studying something I enjoyed.
Oh my God, bro. So we have people running around this fucking city practicing law and they were like art majors?
Yeah, absolutely. But actually, art majors are really good lawyers. They're really good for intellectual property. So to the extent that you are an artist or you own a museum or you own an extensive art collection, you'd like your lawyer to understand what art is really worth.
Well, see, when you put it like that, that makes sense.
Yeah, she's a lawyer. You can't say anything that she's
God
not
forbid. God forbid. But I was thinking more along the lines like, okay, you're doing criminal defense and your fucking degree is in something completely irrelevant. Like, so there has to be no correlation between what you study before you go to law school.
There doesn't have to be.
Okay.
It can be beneficial. It certainly gives you a bank of experiences to pull from when you talk to people about things. So because I studied French, I thought, I'll go into international law. And I got to law school and realized international law was not all that interesting to me. So I was not all that sold on the idea. I liked the professor who taught the class, but I was not interested in the subject itself. So I was like, okay, that won't be my career. But you have a level of flexibility with a law degree that you don't have in other ways. In fact, that's how I ended up part of how I ended up in law school. That I thought, I'm going to go to take a master's program for like a year or two in between, and then I'll go to law school. My brother looked at me and he was like, you're ridiculous. Anything they'll let you do with a master's, they'll let you do with a JD. Go get the doctorate degree. And that's what it is. So anyway, to answer your question, Jorge, it's a matter of, when you're in your third year of law school, that last year, everyone is looking for a job. Everybody knows that you're looking for a job, and everybody knows that you don't yet have a license to practice. So I knew that I wanted to stay in Philadelphia because my family has officially transplanted here. So we're from Detroit originally. My siblings are all here.
D-Town.
313. So once we got here, it was like, okay, well, this is where we're going to stay. We're going to settle here. So I knew I was taking the Pennsylvania bar exam. I knew I needed to be licensed in Pennsylvania. And then I looked for jobs that would, require me to be licensed, but maybe would give me time until like that October. So normally that's what you do. You take a job. They know you need to take the bar exam. The bar exam is in July. They tell you, well, you're hired. You officially start either after the exam or after you get your results, which is usually about in October. In my case, I signed on to be a law clerk, so I applied to a few different judges. I found a judge who's in an appellate court here in Pennsylvania. I applied to her. She interviewed me. We did that whole process, and then she hired me as a clerk. So I clerked for her for about a year and a half. And then just, you just look for the next job, just like any other job.
Obviously, you're a bright person, and this is going to vary from, depending on who you're talking to. Would you say it was difficult passing the bar? Like, what was that like?
Passing the bar is hard.
Yeah.
Passing the bar is hard, and it takes a lot of time and energy and commitment. The luxury that you have that first summer after you graduate is that most places don't expect you to work, right? So that's what I'm saying. Like, they give you that time, and they're like, look, you don't have to work. But the hourly commitment, I can't remember exactly what the hourly commitment is, but the way the math works out is that essentially you should be studying 40 plus hours a week for 8 to 10 weeks straight. So I'm a lawyer. I don't do math in my head. But if I were to do that math in my head, it works out to something like, I think 45 to 50 hours a week for 8 to 10 weeks is what the prep companies estimate you need to spend. You could spend more or less and still be successful, but to guarantee success, that's what they say you need to invest in it.
Would you agree with that? Like you were putting that much time in?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It didn't feel like it because it was all I had to do. So I would wake up in the morning, I went through a morning routine. I'd go to the law school. I'd sit in the library. I'd do whatever. They have prep courses that make it really easy. So they tell you like step by step, this is what you do, this is what you do. And so you go in, you sit down, you do whatever your tasks are for the day. Maybe you do a little extra work on the side. If you're a flashcard user or a poster board person, you kind of do that. I'm a whiteboard person, so I write out like the whole lesson on the whiteboard in bullet points until I could pare it down so that it was a quick kind of run through in my head. But that's like it's a time commitment. It's a lofty time commitment, and it didn't feel heavy when I wasn't working, but I recently sat for the New Jersey bar exam, and when I sat, I was working full time.
Yeah.
That was impossible.
Yeah, I can't imagine somebody who's working full time and then wanting to become a lawyer and have the time to do both of that. That's ridiculous. There
are people who do it, and I'm my hat goes off to them. Honestly, they're amazing. I have a few friends who went to school, who went to school at night. So like Temple has a night program. Yeah. I think Widener has an evening program as well. So you can work all day, go do your law classes at night. But I still tell people like that summer, whatever your job is, whatever you do you're a school teacher, that's beautiful because you're going to have the summer off anyway. But if you do anything else, you got to tell them I'm quitting early. I know that there were some people when I was studying for the bar exam, I overheard some folks saying that they were applying for unemployment because basically they quit and they were just using their unemployment income to supplement until they could start their lawyer job.
Wow.
That's when Adderall really comes in.
I'm thinking like where I remember being in college and people were studying like to be nurses or doctors, whatever. And like I would see them in the library. It'd be like Monday at 8 o'clock in the morning. And I'd come back on like Tuesday and clothes haven't changed. Eyes bloodshot red, 7 cans of Red Bull. So that's what I'm envisioning. Like hearing you tell this story is like, it's intense. You're locked in. It's like all you're focusing on. It's like your life essentially.
Yeah. Everyone handles it differently, right? Everyone kind of deals with it differently. And you have to find what works for you and do that thing that works for you. For me, I was a library person around finals time. So I would go and I would like sit in the library and that's where I would study. But in general, I could not be stuck there all day. Even now, I can't be stuck in my office all day. I just don't. After a certain period of time, my brain is just not into it anymore. Right. We have to leave. We got to go reset. I can come back, but I can't stay. I have to move around. I have to like give myself a break from it all. And it's true even about the profession, right? So it's like law school does feel really heavy. It is a heavy lift. So is the practice. And then when you get into the practice, you have to be even more intentional because you don't have summers off anymore. You don't have really a gaggle of peers around you who are saying, oh yeah, like this Friday, let's go to a bar. You lose that. So once you've lost that, now you have to find your kind of network, your home, where you can both be a professional and do all the things you have to do, but then you can kind of leave that sphere. And with other people who have something to lose, because you have a lot to lose, you can go out and still kind of let loose and relax and rediscover, if you will, your identity in a way.
Putting in all that time to chase this career and then now having it, obviously you love what you do. Is the payout, like, was it what you thought it was going to be as far as like, how do I word this? I'm not saying like financially. I'm just saying like what you get from your job. Like,
is it rewarding?
Rewarding.
I found that the access that I have now is even more rewarding than I thought it would be. And I don't mean access to like power or money or anything like that. I mean the fact that I have access to a network, a pool of resources that I have available kind of at the drop of a hat. And if someone calls me and says, hey, I need a lawyer who does X, even if I don't have the answer, I know exactly where to go to look. I know exactly who to ask. and I can always kind of feed that resource back. That to me has been the most rewarding part of the profession of being a lawyer, is that I know so many other lawyers. And to the extent that I know people who need lawyers for whatever reason, I'm like, oh no, this person, I can tell you, you can trust them, you can rely on them, they're going to do right by you. And they're going to do right by you if for no other reason than they would do right by me. Yeah. And they know that I'm bringing you to them. So that has been, I would say, far and beyond the greatest reward. It's nice to have the quote unquote prestige of the profession and to say, oh yeah, I'm a lawyer, but I don't thrive on that. Yeah. I thrive on that because I want people to know that when you're talking to me, you're talking to somebody who knows something. And not that I know something like I'm the smartest person. I know something
using words that people won't know.
I have I know something like I have things and I'm happy to give them. I'm happy to share what I have. So ask me so that I can share, because that's, I look for those opportunities.
And I'm glad that you said that you don't, like, the satisfaction isn't from being a lawyer per se. Because I got to tell you, I done talked to a lot of lawyers in my life. And some of these people are just fucking unreliable, bruh. Like, you would think for somebody who's putting in this much fucking work that it would be like a fine-tuned machine. Like, I had a car accident a couple years ago, and I'm like trying to figure out like what's going on. Give me an update. And I'll call you back. And it would be like 2 weeks later, and I call his office, and I get his assistant, and it's like, oh, what's your name? Okay, let me see if he's available. I know he's fucking available because I called his cell phone, and he sounded like he was having lunch. So call me fucking back. It's been 2 weeks, bro. Like, y'all don't have like a set like guide on how to operate these firms. Like,
I cannot comment on the behavior of another attorney.
Yeah, you could.
I can tell you that we have ethical guidelines that guide us, and the expectation as a lawyer is to operate at a higher standard. The reality is sometimes, depending on the lawyer, depending on their practice, depending on the firm, depending on the supports that they have around them, that can be a lot harder. If you're a solo practitioner working by yourself, maybe you have one legal secretary who works part-time, it's a lot harder to keep up with all of the competing demands and meet overhead, right? Like you run a couple businesses, so you know something about meeting your overhead. So when you have to focus on, I have to do these things in order to pay the bills and keep the lights on here. And yes, this client called me, but I know that there's nothing pressing right now, or I'm not going to say anything that's going to make them feel better. Sometimes you go, well, let me find something that I can give them that'll make them feel better first, and then I'll call them back or whatever. So sometimes things happen. I can't speak to that person or what happened there, but that's the truth. It's, if you define yourself by the practice, then things like that, saying, knowing that you have a client that you haven't called back in 2 weeks would crush you, right? If that was your sole source of satisfaction, was like, I'm a lawyer and I take great pride in being a lawyer, and that's the only thing I ever am is a lawyer, then you would, because you fail. Like, you fail. We all struggle in life, and no matter what you do for a living, at some point in time, you're not going to meet the standard. Yeah. You're either not going to meet your own standard, or you're not going to meet the standard that's set for you. But when that happens, you have to have something else that you say, but I'm still this. Okay.
Mind if we get a little personal?
I mean, we here now.
Okay, cool. Did you have both of your parents growing up?
I did. I did have both my parents growing up.
What'd they do?
So my mom, my mom was a licensed practical nurse. She had her GED and a trade school education.
Shout out to mom.
Yeah, my mom was a goat. My dad was a shade tree.
Here we go.
My father was what you call a shade tree mechanic. Y'all know what that is?
A shade tree mechanic. Sounds like he cut tree branches.
No. A shade tree mechanic means he's a mechanic that works under the shade of a tree.
Oh my God. That's some down south saying shit. Right? A shade tree mechanic. Okay.
Yeah. So my dad, he worked a few jobs. He worked a few different jobs growing up, but he didn't. I don't know. I love my father. My father's amazing in that he did his best to be the best dad that he could be, to be everything that he knew his father was not. But in my adulthood, I'm able to recognize that my dad was just limited in a lot of ways. And for a very long time, my father struggled with a drug addiction. And that made it even harder because to the extent he could understand that he was struggling with meeting the standard, meeting the expectation, he didn't have the appropriate tools to cope. And so then sometimes he would just kind of fall off.
Yeah.
But he was always there. He always knew where we were. Even now, he doesn't know exactly where I am, but like, he knows I'm in Philadelphia. He has a thorough expectation that if he does not know where I am, my older brother, who's 16 years my senior, so my parents started really young. They were teenagers when they had my brother. He has, every expectation that, okay, I don't know where she is, but he knows, like the big head, as he calls him, like the big head knows where she is and what's going on.
Well, I mean, even though it sounds like y'all had some struggles, they obviously delivered as parents because they raised at least two extremely bright kids, right? You both are very successful. Your brother is very successful as well. So, I mean, what would you then, like, I guess, attribute to your success? Has it been like something that they instilled in you, or was it just kind of like your personal drive? You felt like, oh, I got to be a go-getter. I got to go do it.
No, I never felt like I needed to be a go-getter. I'm not a gunner.
Oh,
In law school, those people who like always have to be like the teacher's pet, right? That person who's always got to be on top. We call them gunners. I've never been a gunner.
Gunners in Philly mean something completely different.
Right, don't walk outside to say that. But I've always felt like it was super important to be connected and to develop relationships and maintain strong relationships. So that, I think, comes from my family. I think that comes from my parents, who taught me, these are your siblings, these are your brothers, the three of you guys, you stick together no matter what. And that was the start of my understanding of relationship. Going forward, it became, these are your siblings. You stick with them no matter what. And to the extent you find other good people, you can hold on to them too. They're still not your siblings. So if they transgress against your sibling, they've got to go. But as long as they're good to you, as long as they're good to the people who take care of you, the people who love you the most, they can stay around. And that's been a lot of my philosophy that guides the way I deal with people. That's why I try to be, diligent when someone calls. I try to make sure I call back, because I think my brand is more so about being friendly, more so about being connected and nurturing good connections. And I think that's been the biggest contributor to my success. And my mother taught because she did not have an education, and because my grandmother did not have an education. My grandmother was functionally illiterate, as is my father, actually. And so she taught her kids, because she couldn't read, she taught her kids, you go to school, you love your children. These are the things you do in life. You go to school. When you grow up, if you have babies, you love your babies with all you have in you. And that's what your focus is. That's it. Once you have a kid, you kind of stop being important, and now it's the child, and you invest everything there. And so my mother's lessons out of that are family comes first, and you pursue your education. And so it was always get your education and run. I was advised to kind of learn in Detroit until I got old enough, go away. Don't come back. Don't look back. You can come back and visit. You come, you hug, you kiss the babies, you wave, and then you go on. You go back to your life somewhere else, because it's important to grow beyond where you are.
100%. It's something to say like about people who have like hardships as like kids, growing up. Like, I don't know what it is. It's like you look at some people in their lives and they have everything, and you would think like, oh, this person's gonna be fucking great, and then they turn out to be a little piece of shit. And it's like hearing your story. Your father's functionally illiterate. But here you are performing. It's like you could have the excuse. You could have every excuse in the world. Well, maybe not everyone. But like, you didn't let that be a deterrent. Like, you didn't let that hold you back. And, I got to give you your props, because my relationship with my dad isn't great. And I think there's at times things that I've gone through dealing with him, or, lack thereof. And it's just like, some of the stuff has come back to haunt me. And I'm like processing it and, going to therapy and dealing with all that shit. But, it's tough. It's tough having like that family history kind of hanging over you. And it impacting you in real time. Like, you know, maybe you saw your father doing drugs, or maybe you didn't, whatever, but you knew it was happening. So it's like building this sense of anxiety, which could ultimately derail your whole fucking life. Yeah. But, you know, you kept pushing. And, like, you know, I got to give you your props, because that's fucking tough to do.
The most important thing I think that happens is having the willingness and the power to break a cycle within their family.
Yeah.
And that just doesn't happen regularly, especially with people that are, you know, poverty. It's just they see it, right? It becomes their normality. And in order to break that chain, you have to have a different state of mind from the people that are in your life, your parents, your mom. And how do you do that as a kid growing up? You have to make that self-conscious decision that you don't want to be like them.
I'm going to be the opposite.
Yeah. And then you take that right-hand turn while everybody else is taking that left turn, right? And then you're, you know, in that situation, you might feel isolated from your family because then they think, oh, this guy thinks he's better than me. I've experienced that a lot. And it's just like, no, I just wanted to change myself because I'm going to start my own family. And I don't want them to experience what I experienced. And it's so selfish for people to not think that way and to continue down that cycle and not break that chain because it's so easy to just fall into it.
It's something about seeing someone else close to you succeed that, like, touches on your insecurity. It's like, oh, damn. Well,
Yeah.
George has a beautiful family. He's got a great house. He has a great job. We grew up together. Like, what the fuck am I not doing? Or what's wrong with me? And people, you know, they project that onto you. So it becomes like, oh, you think because you got a new car. She think because she go to the club and pop bottles of Victoria, she, you know, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, bro, like, everybody's story is different. Everybody's struggle is different. And, like, you got to be comfortable with, like, seeing other people succeed, being happy for them, and knowing that it could be you. Because, like, the way it works is, you know, you're going to be just as successful as the people around you. So if you're plugging yourself into these circles and you're leading with an open mind and not being a dickhead, there's a chance that there's room for you at the table, as opposed to you trying to pull them fucking away from the table. Like, you know, step your shit up.
I'll tell you, that's actually the genesis of get your education and run, right? Like, that's where my mom got that notion from, was this understanding that, look, my expectation is for you to succeed. My expectation is that you will do well in life in general. Whatever it is you decide to do, you're going to do well. So in order to facilitate that, you're going to have to separate yourself. So you have to run. That's what the run is. And the stay gone is because you're not going to be able to come back and these people not try to pull you back down. Not to say that my family was bad, you know, my extended family, to say that they were bad or anything like that, but just that they couldn't understand. Yeah. That a lot of them weren't of that mentality, weren't of the idea that they could be more, that more could come, or that we could have something, right? My older brother runs his own firm. You know, he has his own firm. And that firm is quite successful. So to that end, if I look up tomorrow and find myself unemployed or in need of a new job, or if I just want to go somewhere where I'm, like, safer, I mean, working for my brother is not easy, but if I wanted that experience, I could have that, right? And to that end, we have cousins and things like that. And every now and then we get a call from a cousin or an uncle. It's like, hey, I'm going to come move out to Philly with y'all. Da, da, da. Yeah. It's like, okay, come on. Well, you know, won't hire you off rip. Got to make sure you're serious.
As well.
But you come out here, you're looking for a job. We're going to connect you. We're going to get you a job. We're going to get you set up, get you a nice place to live. You're going to be all right. And then if we find a way to expand this enterprise, my brother and I literally every other week, I'll say, are bouncing around like, hey, this is a good family business idea. Why don't we buy into this franchise? Why don't we do that?
Yeah. Before we...
Yeah, I was going to say.
I just want to say shout out to your mom for that, because to tell your kid to do what you need to do and then go somewhere else is not an easy thing for a parent. No. I mean, my boys are very young, but I can't imagine them telling them to go away. Mm-hmm. But if it's within, you know, for their better nature, for them to succeed, then yeah. But there's no way that's an easy decision to make. So shout out to her for even being able to do that.
100%. So the whole point of us launching the Mancave podcast originally, right, was to, I guess, like, uplift and help as many young men or, you know, men our age as possible, right? So being as though you're in, like, a male-dominated field, essentially, would you say that it's easier for men to be lawyers than it is for women?
To be or to become?
Either or. You can speak to both if you want.
So I'd say that historically, just by virtue of life in the world, and particularly this country and how we run things, it is certainly easier, or it has been historically easier for men to have access to most specialized industries, or really anything that's anything that requires an education, right? A significant amount of education, because for a long time, women, just like people of color, were barred from education. And then when you got the education, you were barred from entering the profession. In this case, being a lawyer, you were barred from taking the bar exam. You couldn't even get in to take the test. So if you can't take the test, you certainly can't become a lawyer. And then, we go, it's fine, we'll let women into law schools. Okay, it's fine, we'll let women take the test. But then you still have to get the job. And then everybody's looking at you like, oh, but you're a lady lawyer. And that's not so much that I don't believe that is, as much the case now as it was 40 years ago. I certainly have professors and mentors who came up in an era, those women who graduated law school in the mid 80s, early 80s, late 80s, in the 80s, I guess, and then entered the practice. They encountered a very different environment from that we encounter today. So is it easier? I don't think there is a cut and dry answer. I think it depends on what you're trying to do, like the people that you encounter. It's the lawyer's answer, actually. Law school, the first thing you learn, the answer to every question, it depends. So that's your first law lesson, y'all. Take that. But it depends on what you encounter. But the overarching generalization, the overarching answer would be, yeah, it's easier for men.
So I saw a statistic that said about a third of attorneys in the country are women. Mm-hmm. And it's on an upward trajectory, apparently, meaning at some point women could possibly outpace men as being attorneys. So there's this talking point, and they call it the manosphere, which is basically the internet where men go to talk shit and whatever.
That's a place?
The manosphere, yeah. It's
wow.
it's like the multiverse. You watch art. Come on, you watch Avengers. Wow. Don't act like you don't know these things.
I didn't know the manosphere was a thing.
The manosphere.
I got an internet group chat? That's crazy.
I mean,
it's not easy to run either.
You know what I'm saying? George, me and George, we on our way
Let me find out. George is the primary admin.
Listen.
He owns the domain.
It's he got a secret username. Dark Hammer 36. But not men are always arguing that women are more emotional than they are logical, right? Mm-hmm. Would you say that being an attorney requires you to think logically or critically?
I think it requires you to use all parts of your brain. Okay. So it's going to require critical
thinking.
So
you're just going to dodge the question entirely.
I'm hitting it head on. Okay. Watch.
She was about to be it depends.
Yeah, she was.
No, it absolutely requires every part of your brain. So it requires you to think logically. It requires you to think critically, but it also requires you to have emotional intelligence.
Why
good lawyers understand that this is a service industry. Mm-hmm. And so you work at the pleasure, essentially, of your client. You can fire a client, and a client can fire you. So you have to both work with people that you can work with, because there are difficult clients, but they're difficult. There's difficult that you can tolerate and difficult that you can't. And you know this.
Of course.
You in the service. Come on. I explain it to you.
Preach.
So, you have to be strategic about your clients, but you also have to be strategic about how you handle your client, because you have to understand, I don't have anything that's going to make my client feel better if I call them back today. So let me figure it out. Let me work something out, come up with something that's going to make them feel better. What can I do to make it better for them? I'm going to call my client back with something that's actually going to help them. And that's what you do. But that requires emotional intelligence. So I'm not going to comment for y'all's sake on whether or not women think emotionally. And
you're going to be a clip anyway. I don't know what you're talking about.
I got what I needed.
Look, there you go. Thank you, George.
I'm just saying, I won't interrupt the manosphere. Y'all discuss what y'all will there. But I will tell you that in this profession, women are equally as equipped.
Yeah. I love that you said that though, because and when I hear that shit, it's always like, you don't think people are like human beings are complicated, but they're dynamic. Like people can change depending on the situation. People get used to things. They learn how to do things. Women and men, like equally. So it's like, if you expect a woman to just be emotional all the time, I probably shouldn't use that word.
Oh, there's my clip for Larry.
Not use that word.
Yeah.
You don't say that anymore.
What was it? What'd you say?
I said you're an idiot. Something's wrong with you if you think that women. If you think
There you
that
go.
women,
Say it that way. Say it that way. That's better.
If you think females. Oh man. So I have too much fun with that shit. But yeah, if you think women are incapable of thinking logically, you're stupid. Because they're just as equally as capable as men are. Like, and obviously in certain situations they're going to be more emotional because it depends on the situation. But it's like, I don't understand why people have this narrative. And I'm sitting here talking to you. You're stoic. You know, you've got everything figured out. She already knows what she's going to say before she says it. So it's like, I would have a hard time getting an emotional response out of you unless I said something crazy, right?
Well, okay, so two things. One, I'm gonna come back to the stoic thing. Okay. I hope I don't forget to do that. I'm gonna come back.
You
to
know
the
what that
stoic
means, by the way?
I know what that means.
Let her know.
I know what that means.
Explain
and in fact,
it
I'll give you an example of a time somebody called me stoic, and ever since then, I don't like that. But I think
Don't get emotional now.
I think the telling thing isn't so much, I guess the point isn't so much that women are more emotional than men. I think women have been placed in a position where we are permitted to be more emotional than y'all have been.
I agree.
So y'all have turned that part of your brains off a lot of the time, and we have been granted permission to live there. I think some women make a choice that, you know, okay, I'm going to lean into that and I'm going to manipulate that.
Of course.
But I think generally speaking, people are trying their best to do things the way that they know how to do them. And we've been allowed to have a little more emotion. But I'll tell you, I've never cried in front of anybody at work. So like, I don't understand that. Like, it's not, that doesn't make me stoic. It makes me a professional. It means I have a job I have to do, and it doesn't matter how I feel right now or what you said to me. I have to do my job. I'm going to do my job. And then later, however I feel about it, y'all might get upset and, you leave the job and you storm out and you slam the doors, whatever. But that doesn't,
we go to liquor.
Whatever. Whatever. I'll tell you this, as a black woman, it's even more interesting because I'm not.
That's my favorite joke.
This man. As a black woman, it's even more difficult because I can't be soft at work because I can't be all emotional and, because she's a woman. And I can't get mad.
Because then
I can't get mad. Ain't that crazy? And they be doing stuff to make you mad. Yeah. But then you can't let that show. You can't let that show. They'll say things, all of the microaggressions that we experience in everyday life. You are liable to encounter at work because you're still just dealing with other people. You're dealing with people who come from different backgrounds, have different life experiences. People are going to say things to you. And you're like, oh, that's how you feel. Okay. Like I had a colleague who I spoke one day. Like I said, good morning, how's it going? Didn't respond to me. Happened again. Said, hey, good morning, how's it going? Didn't speak to me. After like third or fourth time. Now, if I had permission to respond the way I would have said it louder. Right? Would have put myself in a position where you have to see me now. You got to walk past me. Good morning. But I can't do that because then I'd be the angry black woman in the office. So I just said, okay. And he and I will not speak. So I will not greet him anymore, and I have this understanding. He's going to come in and walk past me like he don't see me. And that's fine. I'm going to act like I don't see him either. Whoop, oh, there was a shadow. Where did that go? But that's, but you have to come to that place where you're able to manage yourself. But I think the only reason women are categorized as being more emotional is because y'all are told have no emotions. And then, oh yeah, because that's for women. That's a girl thing. Pink is for girls, blue is for boys. Stuff.
Are you in a relationship right now? Oh, it's complicated.
Can we
It
cut
depends.
this? Is this edited? Is this edited?
No, definitely not this part. Might edit every goddamn thing in this episode. We're gonna keep this one.
I will. I will only comment that my left hand is naked. That's all I got to say.
Oh, fair enough. Okay.
all I got
So,
to say.
fellas, you heard that. If she ain't no ring on her finger, she's single.
And what's your Instagram?
It's private, so I gotta approve the follow request anyway.
Do you think your success and like your mentality makes it difficult for you in the dating place?
Like to date?
Yeah.
I just clicked. That was nice. I'm like,
That's
something
all
like that.
Yeah, we can keep that too. She a little ratchet, y'all.
Shady.
Attorney with a little sprinkler ratchet.
Cannot be trusted. So reckless. So do I think it's made it more difficult to date? No, I would not say so.
Okay.
Because I think, I guess when I talk about, I guess in terms of time, right? Having the time to entertain or the bandwidth.
Of course.
Right? Because I'm busy and just like at a certain point, it's just like, all right, dude, I don't have time, you know? But what I think that has done for me is it's forced me to exercise discernment in a way that's a little different. So if I, encounter you and, okay, we went out once or twice and, I really have to be honest with myself about whether or not I'm interested because my time is that much more valuable now. Because one, my firm pays me for how many hours I bill on a case, on a matter. And two, they bill the client based on that. And my metric, what they use, my KPI, right, my key performance indicator, is how much money they make off of me in a year. So since that's what they're looking for, my time is quite literally money. I bill in 6-minute increments. You want my phone number? That's fine. This needs to be a quick conversation because you ain't got $35 to pay me for it. You know what I mean? That's what it is. So in that sense, because of time, yes, I don't think someone finds out I'm a lawyer and they're like intimidated and they shrink away.
Oh, good to know. Good to know.
Maybe that's happening. I don't know.
I feel like that I don't know where that comes from. Where men are intimidated by successful women, because I would never be. Like, if you're successful, I'd fucking love that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't know the state of mind. I guess it just has to be like a weaker minded dude. But is that something you've experienced on a regular dating?
So real quick, you say you don't know where that came from, but your homeboy sat here, and according to y'all, the only reason I got to take the mic over from him was that he was intimidated. So
I think
maybe
he was trying
not
to holler
on the basis.
too. So he was like, "Yeah, shorty, come on."
Then he must have been intimidated because he never said anything to me.
Well, you kind of got to get to know him a little bit better because he was thinking about some other shit the minute that he walked out of here. I promise you, like
he's not a good example. I love him to death. Not a good example.
I guess he don't take his tips from the manosphere.
I don't know where he gets his information from.
That man is a free thinker.
My man looks into the sky and see whatever the stars tells him.
Yeah, that is.
But I would say, so the idea that men are intimidated, it's not so much an idea. It's you can observe in someone a change in how they deal with you, right? And so you say, oh yeah, well, this is what I do. This is what I have. This is my life experience. And if you find that they treat you differently on the back end of you saying that, the logical explanation is something I said disrupted them. Something I said bothered them. And it is causing them to behave in this way. And sometimes that thing that you said is what you do. And their response is defensive. Right? So if I tell you, oh yeah, I'm a lawyer, and then you feel the need to tell me, to defend to me all the things that you do and how you get into this money and I'm doing this and I get some money though, baby. I be doing that. You feel the need to do all that, you feel intimidated. And I wasn't trying to flex. You asked me what I do. I answered the question. I wasn't trying to tell you, oh yeah, I'm a lawyer, so I'm this.
And as a naked left-hander, is that something that you experience regularly? Like you tell the man, oh, I'm a lawyer, and then you notice that they kind of start being like, well, I could do this. Is that something you experience a lot?
I wouldn't say regularly. I will say that I've experienced it, and sometimes it doesn't right away strike me as, oh, this person is intimidated. Sometimes it's just, okay, like he's trying to, he may feel like he's not quite doing enough, and so he needs
wants to match.
Yeah, so he's trying to put up a little bit. But then you can, the thing that they do after that and the action after that, after a while, the actions start to add up and you're like, oh, you're bothered by this. You're uncomfortable with the fact that this is what I do.
So all of these dudes that you're basically ducking, do you have like a general idea for what they do for work? Like, do they make, I guess my bigger question is like, do they make less money than you? Let's just think about the guy that you're currently ducking. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And we're not going to go into numbers. We're just going to say yes.
He makes less money than you. Okay. And do you personally have a problem with that? That a guy makes less money than you?
I don't have a problem with what you make.
Okay.
I have a problem. So I think we look at, in family court, y'all ain't gonna like this. In family court, when they're doing the assessment of child support and sometimes with alimony and spousal support, they look at your income potential, your earning capacity. How much can you make? And I have a problem with men who have limited earning capacities because they limit themselves. If you are limiting yourself, meaning you could go make a lot of money, but you're just like, I'd rather sit at home and play video games.
Oh,
It's not going to work for me. And it's not that you can't play the game. You can play the game. You can have fun.
Thank you for expounding.
Enjoy your Xbox.
Okay.
Enjoy your PlayStation. Whatever your thing is, do it. Do it. If it makes you happy, if it's your stress relief, whatever it is, I ain't got nothing to do with that.
You heard it from a lawyer.
If that's how you decompress, like everybody has to have their thing.
Yes.
And honestly, I'd rather have you at home playing the game than out at a strip club. So yes, please.
That's what we need
play
to do,
the game.
Larry. More strip clubs. This is gonna be like, yo, just
Take
come
the
on, play
fucking game to the strip club, nigga. We up. We
Please
up.
Y'all ain't got to don't do that. Don't do that because they still gonna expect you to tip, and then they gonna take the PlayStation when you don't tip enough. Don't do that. You gonna lose that whole PS5. But yeah, so no, yes, I think that men do a much better job of having recreational activities. Right? They have their own little hobbies and things like that, and I've heard the critique from men who I'm sure are hanging out in the manosphere. I've heard the critique that
What you pointing at me like I actually run it.
That women don't have hobbies. Right, so some other podcast kind of similar to you guys. I can't remember which one.
Nobody's similar
eons
to
ago.
us.
They had someone was saying like, yeah, these women, they don't have any hobbies. Like all they do is work and scroll on Instagram. And I'm like, yes, because scrolling on Instagram is that is my release. I can turn my brain off and it doesn't matter what I see. I can keep scrolling. And when I get tired of scrolling, I can go, for me, I like jigsaw puzzles. I'll turn it off, go do a jigsaw puzzle, put a basketball game on the TV and do a puzzle. Like that's my thing. I like sports. I like puzzles. It's a nice little way to decompress. But so to that end, you can play the game. But if all you do is play the game, or if you play the game and you play the game all day, say you work a night shift, right? You work like I don't want to say a little job because that's black people being pejorative. But you work a job that puts you on a night shift. Right. And so maybe you can make great money, working a night shift or working a varied schedule. You make good money, you work your job, and you're like, okay, well, I'm home all day, so I'm just going to sleep and play the game. Okay, cool. That's your choice. I would still say to the extent you have extra hours in your day, you're kind of limiting your earning capacity. And so if you say, oh, yeah, well, I would like to do this, but I don't have time, but you have time to sleep during the day and you have time to play the game all day, and then it's like, oh, well, I got to rush to work and you late to work. Well, hold on, dog. You got time. You got time because you had time to play the game. You had time to sleep more than like the allocated like 8 to 10 hours. You sleeping 12, 16 hours. You working a little 4-hour gig. And then you coming back telling me I ain't got time to do nothing else. How that happen? Where did your hours go? We had the same 24 hours in this day. And, and it's not to say that people don't waste time. It's not to say that you don't struggle with focus. We all do. I'm honest with myself when I'm like, yeah, today hasn't been a productive day. So that's fine. But if you feel like, no, my day was perfectly productive. I worked 8 hours from home in my boxers and I didn't do anything after work. I just kind of sat here. But man, I'd really like to get XYZ certification. or I'd really like to do ABC. If you have things that you still need to do or want to do on your list at the end of the day and you haven't made any headway, but you had time to do other nonsense, you're limiting your earning capacity. So I have a problem with men who limit their earning capacity and then say, oh, well, what did you want me to do?
So what if he's out working all day? Or would you be cool with that?
If he's out working all day.
Yeah.
Work.
But you would be fine with that.
People gotta work. You gotta pay your bills.
If he's working 12 hours and then he's home with you for 2 hours, y'all watching TV or something, and then y'all going to bed.
Like what he's saying is like now it's pretty much the opposite of what you're saying. So you barely see him now because he's working so much. Is that what you'd rather have?
I think that would be its own set of frustrating. And you'd have a unique set of challenges that you'd have to work around. So, okay, he's got to work 12 hours. Maybe we need to talk about how we can take what you do now and leverage it so that you can work less time and make the same amount of money or more.
I agree with that. So, like in terms of, and obviously Valentine's Day is coming up, right? So we want to get Sam, make sure she get that thing on her finger.
Right.
What would you say as a successful black woman you look for in a man outside of somebody who doesn't play video games all day, somebody who doesn't sleep longer than 8 hours, somebody who knows what extemporaneous means? Like,
you ain't even got to know what extemporaneous means. I'll explain it to you.
Oh, get out.
I think the thing that driven people, not just women, I think driven people largely look for partners who share a vision, like an end goal, right? Because life, relationships, marriage, all of that stuff is about a vision for the end goal. We want the same thing. And we're going to work together in whatever capacity we have to get to the end goal. So if the end goal is, 2 kids, white picket fence in the suburbs, what do we each have to do to get to 2 kids, white picket fence in the suburbs and have that be sustainable? That to me is the most important thing. And then I need a partner who's actually going to see the vision, have the vision with me, and then be a coworker, be a colleague in achieving the vision. It's not enough for you to be like, oh yeah, baby, I want that too. I want that too. I want that too. Okay, how are we getting there? Help me. Like, you don't have to be, I'm not going to make you be the visionary by yourself. You don't have to see it all. You just have to see some of it. And if you can meet me somewhere along the way, like, okay, well, I see that this is what we want. I understand this is what we're going to do. These are the things that I can do. So you need to know yourself. You need to know your, what are your strengths? What do I bring to this? And then how can I contribute that to this partnership to make the partnership successful? Same thing with business partners. You look for people who see the vision. Okay, cool. We're going to open a business. The goal is for us to be the top name in graphic design, right? We're going to be the top name in graphic design. Well, I'm not really an artist, but I'm really good with a business plan. I'm really good at marketing. And he's really good at the design. So that's my graphic designer. He can design anything. He can make something out of nothing. Business plan. We got the vision. We go for it. Everybody brings their strengths. You pull them together and you create something. That's what I'm looking for.
I love everything that you said, unfortunately. And I wish that more men understood that having like a competent, successful, intelligent partner only will benefit you. Mm-hmm. Because there are times when, I'm working on something or I'm trying to build something out or I have an idea or whatever that I'm working on. And I know I have somebody at home. I can call them like, listen, I got this idea, or what do you think about this?
Yeah, and you also have Abby.
If she's swing on you, bro, I ain't got nothing to do with that. But yeah, like I have, because what people I don't think a lot of men realize is, like, yeah, you can be the head of the household. And if you want to, carry yourself as like, oh, you're the head, you're this, you're that, you have to understand that, yes, you have another person living with you, or you have another person that's attached to you. And that person should not be dead fucking weight. Like, you should want your partner to be capable because she can benefit your life, your business, your hobbies, whatever it is, if she chooses to. You know what I mean? Like, so I love that you said that. This is
going to sound funny. Because you said head of household. This is the soundbite. This is the soundbite. This is the soundbite I'm gonna get y'all. Yeah, I got you. This is the soundbite. So y'all, you talk about being the head of the household, right? You ever seen somebody with no neck?
Yeah, I did see one dude with on that.
I've actually seen it a couple times. You going to the gym? They don't got necks in the gym.
Nah. Remember Florida man with the neck? Yeah.
So every head sits on a neck, right?
Yeah.
And if you have a stiff neck, right, a neck that's not going to work with you, it's not giving anything, it's just going to sit there. That's not useful to you because now you got to turn your whole.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're never going to get anything done.
Yeah.
But you also don't want a loose neck that just kind of does whatever because that's no support. You're not getting anything to uplift you. Mm-hmm. You need a neck that's going to be sturdy, that's going to be flexible, that's going to work with you. So the way I was kind of taught was, yes, man is the head of the household. The woman is the neck. You serve to support, you serve to uplift, but you also serve to guide the direction. Right? Because if your neck say you looking left, that's whether you want to or not, you got to turn, and that's what the one in my analogy, in my view of it, that's how the woman serves.
I've heard that saying before.
And I knew she heard that at church. The minute she said something,
My mama was a preacher. I got it from her. She preached a whole sermon about it.
I was like, this is something she heard on Sunday. Had to be, because ain't nobody off the street just about to fucking come up with this whole. Thing that you got going on here. So now that we know every man needs good neck,
yes, that's what I heard.
That's what I heard too. Usually for like the last segment of the show, whatever, we like to fuck around a little bit.
Oh Lord,
see how you feel about certain topics. And the one that I had, usually George leads with this, but I had to do this one because me and Abby go back and forth about this a lot. So I'm kind of curious to get your input. Mm-hmm. Do you know this young lady by the name of Lori Harvey?
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
Why are you so enthusiastic about it?
Because I'm anxious to see what you about to ask.
Are you really?
Yeah.
What do you think about her dating life? You think that's nice and healthy?
Well, the first thing I have to say is it don't matter what I think about Lori Harvey's dating life. At the end of the day, her last name's still gonna be Harvey. Her daddy's still gonna take care of her if none of the men do, and that's her business. But whether or not I think it's healthy. Mm-hmm. I don't know because I don't know about y'all, but I've never been in the room with them. So I don't know what y'all be doing in the manosphere, but I'm not there. I think Lori has
took
access.
That manosphere shit and just
I'm never letting that one go. Okay, I'm gonna be in the YouTube comment section I hope we all enjoyed the manosphere this week. Yep, this is going down. But I think Lori Harvey is she's dating. She's just dating. She's doing what 20-somethings do, right? And it just so happens that because of her status, because of the world she lives in, she has access to that, a different caliber of men. So when she's dating casually or, seeing how she feels about something, she gets to stumble upon Michael B. Jordan. I think that's nice.
Yeah. First of all, that's outrageous that you stumble across fucking Michael B. Jordan. But who dates that fucking much as a 20-something-year-old? Is that normal? Is that normal?
Look here, sir.
Wait,
Single.
Didn't Taylor Swift have 50 guys before she was 30?
Hashtag team single till married. Right?
Oh my God. What the hell is that?
Hashtag team single till married?
Team single till married. That's the millennial in me that still uses hashtags. It's cool. But no, I think because she's a 20-something. She's not a 40-something. You know what I mean? She's not, and she is not of a socioeconomic class where she needs to marry to protect her status, where she needs to marry to, preserve her life. She has no children. She doesn't need a dad for her kids. She doesn't need that. She doesn't need it. So if you don't need it, why are women expected? Why does a woman have to settle down in her 20s? Larry, can I ask you a question?
Maybe.
How old are you?
I'm 32.
And when did you get engaged?
This year. Well, actually, no. A couple months ago.
How old were you when you proposed?
31.
Okay. So now we will excuse.
I'm gonna break all.
No, not you. We're not using you. Because let me tell you something, George. The thing I know is this: I made decisions when I was in high school that I would not make today.
Oh, good.
At 28.
I think everybody could say that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And there are decisions I made in my 20s that, in my earlier 20s that I look back today and I'm like, Might not have made those.
I think Lori's
With
gonna have
age, we have the benefit of wisdom. We have the benefit of greater knowledge. We have all of those lived experiences that are behind us that allow us to make the better decision the next day. Yeah. So I think you end up where you belong eventually. Like, you know, Larry, I know a little bit more because I know your family, but like
barely.
Yeah.
You know, like a fucking percentage, like a
I
single
do.
digit.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, I don't know I'm not talking about how much I know about your life,
okay.
your individual
Okay.
life experiences. But so like I understand that maybe you wanted to settle down earlier than you did, but you still find yourself in your 30s now engaged. You weren't, you know, you were not with your forever partner.
No.
In your 20s.
No.
You know, in your early 20s. So I think Lori Harvey is, you know, she's checking out the scene. She's, you know, not checking out the scene. Maybe she aspires to marriage. Maybe she does. I don't know because I haven't asked her and I didn't even read the magazine article about it.
Or they were just dating. He asked her to
Michael
marry.
B. Jordan proposed.
And she said no.
No, he didn't? Okay, he did.
I thought he proposed.
No, they just broke up? Okay, they just broke up.
Did.
Well, do you want to know what
That was a rumor? That was a rumor?
You want to know what her father thinks about her? The guy who's supposed to be like the coach, act like a woman, think like a whatever you want.
Yeah, act like a lady, think like a man.
You want to know what he thinks
What he
about?
thinks? Tell me. Ooh, you got a clip?
I do.
Ooh,
I ain't send this one
let
to
me
you.
see
I like to surprise my attorneys. Here we go.
Okay, let me see. You know what? That's why you horrible in a deposition right there.
That's cool. It's all
That's
good.
why you horrible.
Here,
You a bad client.
so you don't gotta.
You a bad client. You surprising your lawyer, not your
One of
lawyer.
my boys, I got him
hear
straight
it?
at a young age.
All right,
But
good.
my daughters, I have this rule. I never put my hands on them because I don't want them to think it's okay for a man to put his hands on them. So they kind of take advantage of that, I think, and have me wrapped around their fingers.
Yeah.
So my question is, do you have any advice as a father of girls yourself on disciplining your daughters?
Yeah, no. No.
Look at you grinning from ear to ear hearing that shit.
Ain't got nothing for you, player. Sorry about that.
I'm just not
I got
surprised.
4 daughters. I've never spanked one of them because I, too, didn't want them to equate a man's love with physical abuse. So I've never hit them. They've taken full advantage of it. I'm completely and totally wrapped around my daughter's fingers. I give them everything they ask me for. I've never turned them down. I've bought them everything they've ever wanted. I've traveled. I've bought horses, cars, houses. I have ruined my daughters. All 4 of them girls is spoiled. So if you come for one of Steve Harvey's daughters, if you're not in the spoil a woman business, keep moving.
Perfect.
Yup.
Perfect.
Come on. You think you about to get a soundbite off me? Come on.
So
Let me see what you
in
got.
full-
Let me
you in
see
full
what you
agreement.
got.
You in full agreement with her bullshit ass behavior out here, and her own father just admitted.
What he admit? What did he admit?
There's no-
What did he admit? That is
There's
not
no
what he said.
consequences
That he
to
did
any
what?
one of their behaviors.
Oh, hold up. Y'all will not. What you will not do is speak ill of Steve Harvey's parenting. Do you
did it for
understand
him.
that man will walk in here right now and dog walk both of y'all?
He probably would, but I would expect it for a nigga who got 30 years on me. But he admitted it himself. He fucked up.
No, he didn't. That's not what he said.
If the
what
quote
he said,
is, I ruined my daughters, I can't take that in a positive light.
no, that's if you stop the quote at I ruined my daughters. What he means is he's made it difficult for his daughters
Impossible.
to okay, call it what you want.
That's just what it is.
Sounds like a little LTE to me, but you know, whatever. I think when he says that, and I can relate. I can relate to Lori Harvey's situation, right? I can relate to I can relate to what Steve Harvey is saying. Not because I was the father who ruined my daughter, but because I've had it said to me that my goal is, right? My older brother has said to me, my goal is to make it such that your standard is so high that it's difficult. Not that it's impossible. Nobody's trying to make it impossible, but you're trying to make it difficult for you to be impressed. You know, there's like a
Michael
Instagram.
B. Jordan failed? Oof.
You don't know who Michael B. Jordan is in real life.
That's a joke. I just know that he's
No, I
fucking
know.
handsome.
I'm just he good looking. He good looking and he got money, but that doesn't win the day. That doesn't win the day, right? And that's what the goal is. The goal is to make it such that no man can buy her. That's the truth. Like, we look at Lori Harvey and it's like, oh, well, she got everything she had this, she had that, but she can't be bought. She can't be bought. And that's what that means. When he says, I've ruined my daughters, he means they can't be bought. They're spoiled. So you have to spoil her. That's an expectation. And then beyond that, you have to be a good man. You have to be a man of your word. You have to be a man of honor. You know, so it's like, you got to be a good person and you got to spoil her. That's why I've ruined her. I haven't ruined her because that's why he says that he's ruined her. Not because there's anything wrong with her or that he's made her unmanageable, but just that the standard is high. The standard is set high. And in my opinion, men who prioritize or put a high premium on providing, on taking care of their families, you will in some respect, some way or another, you will ruin your person. You will ruin your child. You will ruin the subject. Not because you've done them harm. Ruin is a harsh word, but for example, my mother was one who was incredibly loving, incredibly affectionate. So I grew up in a house where we said, I love you all the time. The verbal expression of love, words of affirmation, physical affection, hugs, kisses, things like that. Come here, let me see you. Let me take a look at you. That kind of stuff was very common in my house. So because of that, I don't do well with men who are distant, who are physically, like, not so much that like it needs to be
emotionally distant,
emotionally distant, or even sometimes physically distant. Because there are some men who are just like, oh, I don't do PDA. It's like, okay, you don't have to do PDA, but like if we're in the house by ourselves and you walk past me and you don't like, hey, honey, little peck on the cheek, little something, I'm going to feel not some type, like I won't feel rejected, but it's important to me. That level of affection, saying I love you, the verbal affirmation of I love you is important to me because that's the kind of like life that I had. I was spoiled in that way. So I guess you could say I was ruined in that regard. Yep.
So if I came to you and I said, hey, I want to go to law school, and your words literally were, I said, I'm coming to you for advice, obviously. And your words to me were, I have nothing for you. Does that tell me that you were successful in what you did or the opposite?
I don't understand the question.
So if I'm looking for advice from you and you said, I can't help you, I have nothing for you, does that tell me that you feel like successful in your methodology?
It may mean that the person is, struggling with direction, maybe having a hard time. So they're having a hard time feeling guided or feeling like they have direction or like they know where they're going. So they're having a hard, I can't tell you where it's the blind leading the blind, right? I can't tell you where to go if I don't know where I'm going. But I think that's why my first piece of advice to anybody is if you want to go to law school, decide where you want to go. I
mean, I only asked you that because Steve advice to the guy in the audience was I don't have any, like that. So you can say from your perspective he didn't ruin her in the sense that we're kind of like pitching it's but it's not what it sounded like, and he looked quite flabbergasted if I'm being honest. If we can add that to the list of words that I happen to know. You know what I'm saying?
Well, the gentleman asked a very directed question,
he did.
Right? His question was specifically about how do you discipline your child? And Steve Harvey's daughters, from what I know, well, I'm not sure, but they're all adults now.
Yeah.
They're all adults. And what he's saying is, I didn't spank them when they were little girls. I didn't put my hands on them because I was worried about them. And in fact, I gave them everything that they wanted. And now, you're asking me to tell you how to physically discipline a child or how to instill some form of discipline against a child. And I can't tell you because I didn't do it. And now I have adult daughters. And now how you consult, how you advise adult women is different from how you discipline a child. Because once a person is grown, I know mamas will say that you are never too old or too big to get a whooping. And I'm not saying that's wrong. But if you are a parent who has never whooped your child and you start whooping on an adult, that's a fight. That's a
Dead
fight
ass.
at that point. That's
Dead ass.
not a whooping. That's not discipline. That's a fight.
Dead ass.
That's different. So he can't tell him how to discipline a little kid because Steve Harvey's like, I don't know. I never thought about that. He never thought about that.
So my question comes to like, obviously I don't have daughters. I have 2 boys. And the toughest thing that a lot of guys like me is like having a daughter. Like, how do you, because everybody has to understand consequences to their actions. I don't care who you are. What you do, if it's wrong, you have to have some kind of consequence to it, right? If I have a daughter and she's wrapped around my finger and she gets away with murder.
Opposite. You're wrapped around her finger.
Yeah, exactly. And anything that she does has no repercussion to it. Am I properly raising her? How, like...
It depends. And I don't, I've met your wife, but I don't know her that well. I think the reality is, in my house, my father was not the disciplinarian. Not that he wasn't, like my dad would yell. He was a yeller. He was a loud man. He is a loud man. He still is a very loud man. But my mother was the disciplinarian. And sometimes my dad would step in and go, hey, like, don't threaten the kids if you're not actually going to whoop them. Like, don't threaten to whoop them if you're not going to whoop them, because that's not fair. He would say stuff like that. But it didn't, by no stretch of the imagination did I think I had him wrapped around my finger. I didn't think that I controlled him. I just understood that my father didn't believe in, he didn't not believe in it, but he didn't espouse corporal punishment for real. So it wasn't his thing. I think you can discipline a child, even your daughter, in a way that is firm and direct and provides guidance without demeaning them, without, making them feel small or stupid. Because I think that's where parents go wrong, right? Like my mother used to say she had 3 options as a parent. She could say, okay, I don't care, and let you go on and do whatever you want. She could talk to you till she was blue in the face. Or this one is not really a thing, but she would say, or she could spank you. Those are my 3 options. It's like, I'm never going to choose option number 1. So I've really only got 2 options. I've talked to you about XYZ situation until I'm blue in the face. And now this is where we've ended up. So what do you want me to, she wouldn't say, what do you want me to do? Because I think that's mental torture. But she would be like, well, I've talked to you about it. We haven't gotten anywhere. So this is, I think this is the only way to get the message through. I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think you really can, if you establish from an early age, I understand you're a child, but I also understand that you're a person. You understand the language that I'm speaking to you. You know what words mean. I'm telling you that you did this. It's improper because, and this is what you will do going forward. That is the expectation of you. That is the level to which you have to perform, whatever the case may be. So you can set that out for a child without harming them. And what you teach then is that love is sometimes correction. Sometimes loving someone is correcting them. You see your friend walking out and they got, my friends do it for me all the time. I walk out, sometimes I look crazy. My friend's like, get your, like, dog, your situation, get yourself together. And that's correction. And sometimes love is correction. Sometimes love is saying, hey, look, you said this and it made me feel that. And, I'd like it if you wouldn't do that again. That's correction. And you can do it without yelling. You can do it without fussing, cussing. You ain't got to do any of that. You can simply communicate. But it takes, and I think a lot of us have to do work. We got to go through therapy. We got to talk. We got to learn how to talk.
I agree.
And then once we learn how to do that, you're able to talk to a child and tell a child what you need them to do and what you expect of them. And very few children, I find, really need to be yelled at. Most kids don't need to be yelled at. When you find a child that needs to be yelled at, it's because that's the only way anyone has ever communicated with them. And now you have to further perpetuate the trauma that they've already experienced because that's the only way that they understand anything. But it's not because that's actually reasonable. And then they grow up to be hurt people, to be damaged children who still need to be yelled at in their 30s and 40s. At your big age, I got to yell at you to convey something? Dang, dog.
I'm actually glad you brought that up because it's a perfect way for us to kind of like in this episode. If you were going to give your son or your little brother.
Well, before you do that, I actually had another thing that I want to throw in.
Go ahead.
It's not as serious. It's actually way more sillier than the other ones. But I was thinking about it. I thought it'd be funny.
What's up?
I think the only one that would actually take away from it is probably Larry. But we're in Black History Month, right?
Oh,
So
God.
one thing that I wanted to do is just throw a couple characters. Characters from movies or shows that I want to know, can we categorize them? Can we celebrate them during Black History Month?
Are you about to ask me about Uncle Ruckus?
Right? No, he's not in the picture. And the first one that I have is Darth Vader. Like, can we celebrate Darth Vader in Black History Month? He's all black.
Shut the fuck up.
And he's voiced by a black dude.
That's right, he was.
Can we not celebrate him?
Can we celebrate the character?
Yeah, he's all black.
The character is white,
He's,
though.
he's all black all the time, and he's voiced by a black guy. And he abandoned his kids.
Shut the
If
fuck
we're just
up.
gonna keep
Shut the fuck up. You gonna bring
I
the
don't
first
believe-
Black History episode of the Mancave podcast with that bullshit?
Yes.
Oh, hell no.
So we can't do it.
Fuck no.
right, second one
I'd
is
rather have George Lopez.
Piccolo. Can we acknowledge Piccolo as a black character?
Fuck no.
Are you kidding me? Piccolo is the most black rating character of all time.
Why? Because he wore a do-rag?
He did wear a do-rag.
You
But
fucking
Who's
piece of
Piccolo?
shit.
he's from Dragon Ball Z.
Oh, okay.
See, if you spent more time with your man while you're playing the game, you would know these things.
No, I'm good. I got my own thing.
Piccolo's a black character. I don't think anybody's gonna disagree.
Piccolo's fucking green, but all right.
He's the only colored person in the show. He showed up
That's
as
what
a
it
villain,
is. They
and
don't
then
agree, so
once we
got
got to
the
know
color.
him, he was all right.
Oh my God,
Right?
George.
That's all I'm saying.
Listen, black people aren't treated like that everywhere. It's just America. And certain parts of
South America,
South Africa and certain parts of Europe.
All right, the last one that I had is Knuckles from Sonic the Hedgehog. Is definitely black, right? He got dreads and he's always ready to box.
Yo.
That's lots.
Yo. I don't even know how the fuck you came up with these three stupid
I feel like I
ass
haven't really
situations.
Drawed on the podcast like that.
It's like building up.
I was like, it's been a while. So happy Black History Month.
Yo, you're a fucking asshole. Wow. Oh man. It's bad enough I didn't know what Kwanzaa was and when
That's
we had
true.
Kyle on here. Jesus. And I said I was gonna learn. I still haven't.
And I knew you weren't going to.
It's-
When you say you didn't know what Kwanzaa was, you mean like you didn't have an idea?
I
or like
had a
you...
general idea, but
Okay.
if you told me like, all right, on the calendar, mark down when Kwanzaa starts and when it ends and the different days or
Could you have put me in the right month, even if you couldn't got the days?
I'm gonna say February just because it's Black History Month.
Ooh, all right.
Kwanzaa is not in. All right, cool.
Kwanzaa is-
March.
Nope.
Well,
Kwanzaa
then,
is with the rest of the
You're
holidays.
losing your black card.
It's
Is
right
it?
there. It's right there with Hanukkah and
So
Christmas.
you're talking, oh, okay.
It's
Yeah, I would
all
never have
down there
fucking guessed
together.
that.
Yeah, they
I
all
would've-
happen around the same
Oh, but
time.
it makes sense because I remember in like 4th grade we were singing the songs or whatever they were trying to teach us. I don't know, but it was like around Christmas. So I'm like, which one am I supposed to be celebrating? Is it Christmas or is it this one?
Yeah.
That's why it's called, like, I don't know if you ever watched, I think it's not a Seinfeld joke, Chris Mahana Kwanzaa.
What the? What?
Christmas, Hana, Kwanzaa. They looped all the holidays together.
Nah. See, black
it a
people, we
thing.
need our own thing and stop grouping us in
Okay,
with every
Marcus
fucking
Garvey.
thing. Yeah. Dr. Umar, actually.
Like,
But
you don't even know what it is. Don't call yourself. Dr. Umar would
Dr.
be
Umar, shout
ashamed
out.
of you.
Yeah, he shout
He
out.
would be ashamed of you
because
not knowing what Kwanzaa
because I got
is.
white in my family. That ass. But if you were going to give your son or your little brother 3 different pieces of advice to help them get to a place where they could potentially pursue someone like yourself, what would you tell them?
Damn, she don't even got the answer.
I'm
Lori
crafty.
Harvey.
You said 3 pieces. You said 3 pieces of advice. So I'm
Yeah.
trying to make sure that I'm giving 3 pieces of advice that are not redundant.
It could be redundant if it's from the heart. You know, that's all that matters.
Know who you are.
Know who you are.
Be that person. And accept when who you are is not what that person needs.
You got to touch on that last one a little bit more.
The deal is, if you know who you are, and you know your strengths, you know your weaknesses, you know what you can do, you know what you can't do, then when you meet someone and you go, okay, this is what I quote unquote bring to the table, right? These are the tools that I have. And when the other person, regardless of gender, knows who they are and they know what they're bringing to the table, then they say, okay, you're bringing that, I'm bringing this. And y'all can look at the table laid out before you and you can say, okay, we have all the tools we need to get to where we're going, or we don't have all the tools we need to get where we're going. And you can make that decision quickly because you know what you're bringing. And they know what they're bringing. And so you're looking and you know exactly what's there. And you have an idea of, okay, well, maybe we don't have this, but we can go get that. And one of y'all probably has a tool that says I can go get that, right? Like nobody's going to hire me to be a financial advisor. I would love if my partner would come in and go, no, I'm really good with money. I'm really good. Like, I'm a good money manager. I'm a good budgeter. I make a budget. I stick with a budget. I can help you stick with a budget. This is going to be what we can do. If I have a partner who can come in and do that, I'm going to be much more successful in life. But if he can't and he goes, well, no, but I have a financial advisor. I know somebody and I talk to him regularly and I take his advice or I take her advice. I take their advice and this is what we do and this is how we got to do it. And I've learned from that experience. I'm like, okay, cool. I can work with that too. But you got to know exactly what you're bringing to the table. And then when you look at the table and see that something is missing and you don't have a way to get the thing that you need, you got to go, it ain't going to work. This just isn't right. And it's not that either person is bad. It's not a match. Because it's about a partnership. It's about building something. And if you don't have enough mortar to put between the bricks, it's not going to stand up. The wind is going to blow, and maybe it'll stay up, but it's going to be cracks all up in there, right? And then it's going to be cold and a mug inside the building because you ain't fill up the holes.
Preach.
So you got to make sure all the crevices are filled. You got to have enough bricks and enough mortar to build a house. That's what it is. And if you don't have enough, you just got to say, all right, we don't have enough here. It's not that you don't have enough. It's not that I don't have enough. It's just that this combined isn't right. We need something else. And I got to go that way. You got to go that way. Be blessed. It doesn't make anybody bad. It just means that this didn't work.
It's very mature of you. And it's a perfect way to end the episode. So, Sam, you were a fantastic guest. We already knew you would be.
Appreciate y'all.
That's why George begged me to have you come on. Yep. Against my better judgment. I did.
And it'll be the last time a woman comes on the show, that's for sure.
But nah, that's awesome.
Get the rest of your guests out the manosphere. It's cool.
But no, seriously, thank you for coming on. This is awesome talking to you.
Appreciate y'all.
You got anything for the lady? You want to drop her OnlyFans or like a...
My what?
You gotta. That's crazy. I mean,
none of those.
Let me know and I'll put it in the description.
Yeah, drop it in the chat. But this is the Mancave podcast, y'all. We appreciate y'all for tuning in with us. Peace.
Happy Black History Month.
Shut the
What?